Where do vegans get their protein?
Where do you even get your protein? Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your protein?
I've been vegan for over 6 years and I have never been diagnosed as protein deficient. If you're new here, hi, my name's Sam. I run the blog samcookskindness.com where I post tons of free vegan recipes for your enjoyment. Today I am doing something a tiny bit different. What I decided to do was to show you where I get my protein as a vegan, whole food, plant-based eater. I decided to film 2 days of my eating. The first day that you'll see is a completely typical day for me. I really didn't put too much thought in it besides for my typical what I eat in a day. And then the second day, I decided to actually be a little bit more aware of protein. So just little swaps here and there. I'll tell you what I did as we go through. So before we start watching and judging my food, there's a couple things that I wanted to note. First is my protein goals. What are my protein goals? I don't really think about it too much as long as I know I'm getting enough. So the Food and Nutrition Board of the Institute of Medicine and the American College of Sports Medicine has a recommendation out there that's pretty standard, and that is 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of weight. So for me, that makes my goal 79.6 grams to 112 grams. And I am 5'1". I am roughly 147 pounds. So those are goals for myself. So think about yourself when you are looking at what my food is. It may not be what you need. Let's start watching. Okay, so day one, I started with a black coffee and my usual cauliflower mango oatmeal. I add cauliflower, 3/4 cup of oats, and then tons of fruit. I haven't really mentioned much about my supplements yet, but I do supplement with a vegan collagen, and I thought it was important to mention here because it does have 10 grams of protein in it, so that will add to my numbers. So my breakfast totals for this day was 539 calories, 28 grams of protein, 73 of carbs, and 9 grams of fat. So this bowl of oatmeal has a whopping 28 grams of protein. That's pretty good for a bowl of. So I've been preloading with veggie soups, and I did on this day as well. I just estimated the calories for this and I incorporated it into my lunch totals because I didn't feel like figuring it all out. But it's all non-starchy veggies and broth, so it's not gonna be high in calories or in protein. The main part of my meal today was sweet potato fries and tofu that I seasoned with some Slappy Mama sauce, which I just found it's really good. It's like a Cajun seasoning, and about a tablespoon of nooch on top of that. And then I served it with a ton of veggies, broccoli, green beans, and barbecue sauce, and some mustard for dipping. So the totals for my lunch was 573 calories total, 29 grams of protein, 75 grams of carbs, 10 grams of fat in that. Dinner time on this day, decided to make a big kale salad. I love the combination of warm veggies with a kale salad, so I did some fresh veggies to start, and then I topped it with air fried sweet potatoes and peppers, onions, zucchini, and we used a maple mustard salad dressing, a little dollop of hummus, as well as some black beans in there. That was really tasty. And the totals for that meal was 503 calories, 25 grams of protein, 57 grams of carbs, and 10 grams of fat. So the totals for this day, day number one, where I was just eating my normal food, was around 1,616 calories total. And for protein, I hit 82.1 grams of protein. 82 grams of protein on a day, really not trying to get a ton, is pretty good. And it's right within that range that I'm supposed to be getting. So I'm really happy with that. So for day two, you're gonna see a lot of the same foods that I just decided to do tiny little tweaks to see if I could increase the protein without making huge changes. So let's start watching day two. Okay, so I started with the same breakfast, except today I decided to add in some protein powder. I did 1 scoop of protein powder, which adds about 10 grams of protein to my breakfast, and I decided to try to cut the calories since I was increasing that. So I did that by reducing the amount of oats that I put in there. So I did a half a cup of oats instead of 3/4 cups of oats, and then I added in the protein powder. So breakfast on day 2 was a whopping 528 calories and 35 grams of protein, 65 grams of carbs, 9 grams of fat. So 35 grams is pretty good for those little tweaks that I made. Moving on to lunch, I started again with that soup, and then I made myself a bowl of sweet potatoes and air fried vegetables with tempeh this time. I swapped out the tempeh for the tofu. I did realize after the fact that this tempeh that I have was not oil free. I didn't check it, so there's a lesson for me to always check in the stores. I'll make sure I don't get the ones with oil next time. So this tempeh bowl was really, really tasty, and it was so filling. Like, I almost didn't want to eat dinner after this meal. And this lunch, 623 calories, 34 grams of protein, 74 grams of carbs, 14 grams of fat, and it was a good lunch. I would definitely make a version of that again. Something I did not film, I forgot to take a video of it for you, was that I did have a matcha. Between lunch and dinner, I had a matcha, and I'm mentioning it because I used a little bit of soy milk in that, and it did add 4 grams of protein to my day. So the matcha latte that I had was around 70 calories, 4 grams of protein, 7 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fat. And then moving on to dinner, I wasn't super hungry, but I did feel like if I didn't eat, I was gonna be hungry. So I made a pretty simple version of a soup that I make a lot. I do have a recipe for it, although this is a very simplified version of it, but I'll link it for you below. It was a whole bunch of vegetables that I just cooked up with broth and miso, and I served it with edamame pasta because those bean pastas are a really, really good source of protein. So that was my simple dinner. I topped it with some sriracha, and the totals for that was 331 calories, 34 grams of protein, and 23 grams of carbs, 6 grams of fat. This was super filling, and honestly, I couldn't believe how full I was after this day. It was so much. So the totals for day 2, when I was being a little more mindful about my protein, actually a little less calories than our first day, was 1552, so 1,552 calories for the day. And total protein was 108.1 grams of protein, so still within the range, really close to the high end of my range actually. Total net carbs 169, total fat 30 grams. So I feel really good about these totals here. 108 grams when I'm being mindful, making some simple switches to try to get in protein when I'm trying to build some muscle. That's a great thing to know that I can do. And day 1 was still in a really good range at 82 grams of protein in a day of completely whole food plant-based eating without really going over the top trying to increase it. So this is just to show you that getting protein on a whole food plant-based diet doesn't have to be hard. I could have left out that protein powder on the second day and still been well within the range that I should be in. It's a nice tool to have if it is something that you struggle with, but it's not necessary. You can get enough protein on a vegan, whole food, plant-based diet with very little effort. I don't track my calories or my protein on a regular basis. Once in a while, I like to throw everything into chronometer. I like to throw it into something to measure just to see that I'm kind of where I should be. But you don't have to go overkill on it. It's pretty easy, and if you're being mindful about it, it's even easier to increase your protein. So I hope this video showed you that maybe you don't have to worry about protein as much as you think you do. You're probably already getting what you should be getting. And if you're worried, just track a couple days and see how you're doing. Maybe make simple switches like tempeh over tofu, because tempeh has so much more protein than tofu. But you know, legumes, soy, the tofu, the soy milk, it all adds up, even if you're only getting little bits. And there's protein in your veggies too. I like to incorporate the broccoli in there because that is a higher protein vegetable and it's delicious. So if you're looking to increase your protein, maybe take a peek at your veggies as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it was entertaining at the very least. Remember that this is just based on me. I'm not saying that you need to eat the same way as me, but I hope it gave you some inspiration on ways to incorporate different types of plant-based protein into your diet. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you never miss a video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!